So this logo here at Denton, this is the first time that this combination here has ever been done. What makes this unique is that the concrete was already polished with large broadcast river rock exposed. Then we engraved down 1/4 of an inch, cutting through all the rocks to get all the detail. Then we backfilled that with terrazzo, custom colored to match the Denton colors, the purple and gold, and then re-mechanically polished the terrazzo. So this particular process has never been done in the world before, nowhere else. Will you find engraved, polished concrete with large aggregate in the middle with a terrazzo logo depression. David Snyder from Decorative Dynamics.
Hi.
We're here at Denton High School in Denton, Texas, doing a really cool logo that is something that's really unusual. So what we're doing is we're engraving in a big D for Denton and their Bronco horse into the concrete, and then we're going to fill this with an emerald color and make it really stand out purple and gold, which is their school colors. So I want to take a minute and let David explain kind of what we're doing here.
Well, the first thing that we've done is we measured and laid out the stencil or template, as we call it, that was created for us of the logo design. Once we got it laid out, then we began to engrave with the pneumatic engraving tools that we use. This is a Barracuda from Engravicrete, and this is a Wasp from Engravicrete. We also use the larger of these 3 tools called a Shark, but are having better results with the Barracuda.
Because of the aggregate.
But it's also smaller, and it gets into some tighter areas better.
Yeah.
You can move it around. It seems to do just as good a job as a Shark did. So,
something that's unique about this particular logo is this school, they didn't decide that they wanted this kind of logo until the very end of the project. This particular area is polished concrete, but with double broadcast river rock to give it an exposed aggregate finish here at the entranceway of the school. So trying to grind and engrave through that exposed aggregate, really dense, hard river rock is sometimes a challenge, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which we found in the larger areas were taking a long time with the Barracuda and the Shark. So we cheated a little bit and used a big demo chipping hammer for the larger areas. That was cheating a little bit, but getting a 1/4 inch deep, it was a lot faster to do that.
That's right.
So we're actually just engraving the area that is going to be purple with the D and with the horse. And then we are going to lay the terrazzo resin in the purple, and then the rest that's left, we're going to engrave that out and put the gold terrazzo epoxy in.
And that gives you the ability to detail the purple if any areas flow over.
Yes,
right?
Yes. It seems like the long way around, but it's actually the smart way around.
Right. So we have 3 of these to do. This is the first of 3. They're 10 foot by 12 foot size-wise. They're pretty large. So we'll come back to you at the end of the project with an update. Thanks. Marble dust. That's what this is, colored to match. And so we've then filled in the depression, the engraving with terrazzo. Then it gets hard. So this is actually about 4 times as hard as this. The outgassing is from?
Is it from the torch?
Nope.
Or just from the moisture barrier?
Yeah, the outgassing is where a little bit of humidity or moisture is in the bottom. When you put the terrazzo resin in, it outgasses and makes the little bubbles. They go all the way to the bottom. So you got to come back in afterwards and fill them. Pain in the butt. But happens in all terrazzo. Happens in epoxy too. Okay, so the question was, why is this area kind of spotty looking? So this whole vestibule project was done with a double broadcast of aggregate after the concrete was poured while it was still wet. So it came in here and broadcast rock over this whole thing that was then troweled in, and then the intent was to grind and expose the finish. When the contractor came through to do their initial main grind, they didn't grind deep enough. The steps that they were going to take were 1 step short of a consistent aggregate exposure. I wanted then to do another main grind late in the project to get the aggregate consistent throughout, but the school district overruled that because it was one extra step and they didn't want to spend the extra money. So it's about an extra 50 cents or so to do one more grind, but they didn't want to do that. So what you end up with is you see some areas where the aggregate that we broadcast is exposed, but then you've got some areas where it's mainly sand aggregate paste layer nearer to the surface. But over here where we did the logo, you can see where as they were doing the logo, they had to regrind a big area to prep for the logo, remove the densifier and stain protect. And if you look, you can see how consistent the aggregate exposure is in the area that they did the additional grinding on, which is what the whole lobby should look like. So the design intent was that the whole lobby would have aggregate exposure like this, non-spotty like that. So the difference in 50 cents per square foot on, I don't know, 3,000 square feet, so $1,500, changes the entire perspective. If they had done a deep aggregate, all these cracks in the surface you wouldn't be able to see them at all. Now you can see them pretty cleanly. They're not really major cracks, they're just curing cracks. But if you look close, like where the rock is here, there's a crack right through the middle, but you can't really see it because the rock breaks up the pattern of the crack. Thanks. Have a great day. It's virtually impossible to get a consistent straight line with the exposed aggregate. The big ones, which there's a bunch of them, you can't see them because they blend pretty well, but the bigger blowouts have been filled with a color that matches the gray rock, and then the fill cut back through. But that's almost impossible to do on small ones because the more you cut, the more it just chips out. So, like I don't think this one, but the main entrance logo, the part of the D is about half an inch thicker than it should be because they tried like 4 more times trying to cut to get clean lines, and every time that they
would pick up on that.
Yeah, you can't tell, but every time that they cut, it would break out more, it would fracture more. So they would try to do another clean cut, it would fracture in different spots every time. So getting perfect clean lines is impossible in the exposed aggregate finish.
It's like a fracture of the stone up there.
Yeah, and the more you cut, the more that's going to blow. And remember that you're only seeing the top part of the rock, not necessarily all of the rock. So something that looks like a little bitty rock, like that right there, may actually be that size. And once you hit it and start, it just chips and fractures away and then keeps eroding away under the concrete of whatever's exposed. In order to get the consistent and dead-on color, that we knew that was going to be impossible with the aggregate and the concrete start, right? So this material is actually cementitious terrazzo without an aggregate. And so everything that you see is cut down half an inch. So it was engraved half an inch deep and then filled. So we did the purple first and then came back and cleaned up the purple and engraved in the tan color, the gold color. That's why you see, clean edges on the purple to gold transition, because that's what we did, is basically took everything out, poured in the purple, cleaned up the edges, poured the gold, and then ground and polished it all. So this is all recessed half an inch. So as far as like a paint, even a 64th of an inch variation in elevation, so the floors, although they're relatively flat, they're not perfectly flat. This is a fluid applied product. So like I'm going to use the main entrance one because that's the one that I washed myself. So when they poured the purple in at the main entrance, it flowed all the way up to that wall, right? The purple all flowed out because the slab was sitting like this. So when they poured that back, they fixed those already, but when they poured that back, the slightest little indention, I'm talking like too slight for you to feel, would still hold the gold and would flow a tiniest little bit. So I think that's what you're you're talking about.
That's what I think Barry saw even last week, where you can see that there's an undulation, but you don't feel it.
Yeah, it's so slight.
Depending on the light.
The little things like this little spot right here. So if you look close, you can actually see the purple showing through.
Yes.
That's a tiniest little bit of a flow line. Those will all go away before the end of before Christmas, just with traffic and cleaning, because it's just the tiniest little bit of this gold that bled over onto the purple as they were trying to get it clean and tight. The lines are tight and straight, but the material is
What will just foot traffic will take that away, or you mean cleaning?
this auto scrubbing. Yeah, just cleaning. We'll take it away because it's as soon as this the guard product comes off, then you'll have these little things will all be purple and all be gold because they're just so thin. Most of it came off with when they did the grinding over the top. It took 99% of those off. I think that's what you're seeing a little bit here, like that.
I'm from and what pads to get. I'll give you a pad that will every day take out little scratches and keep your floor higher gloss than it is now. After about 3 weeks, you'll see that it's up gloss from where it is right now, and it'll keep it that way forever. If you'll just use the soap and pads I give you. And then I'll even give you another pad to deal with stains. So when we made this, it takes about a week for this product to get fully cured. So we put a topical guard product on to keep it from staining in that week. That's something you don't have anywhere else. So that's why it's showing scuffs here. It should be about 4 or 5 scrubs, and that will be gone with the right pads, and then it won't scuff anymore. Okay? When this works, that it will have the same maintenance like the rest of the polished concrete floor. So it's something that we created new. Then I had to go to a manufacturer and get the terrazzo matrix. Normally this terrazzo has rock mixed in with it. So I had to get the terrazzo base made in the custom colors to match the school's logo colors. And then I had to figure out how to do the depth. So this is something that's never been done before. Even generally you never polish terrazzo matrix because you always have, just like this, you have 90% of its rock, like if you go to the airport or whatever. So having just the terrazzo base is pretty unique in its own right, but that's the only way that I could think of to get perfect right-on colors, exactly matched to the school logo, and to get consistent appearance through in an area that's already got exposed aggregate. Because if I did, normally we would do logos with dye, but if we tried to dye, the aggregate doesn't take color, so therefore you'd have rough edges everywhere, because the only thing that would take would be the cement paste between the rock. So this was the only way that I could think of in this environment to get it clean and consistent color and perfect right-on colors. And it's worked exactly like I thought that it would, but it's just something that's completely new and never been done.